Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. Need you to have a little think with this one. Just a bit simple maths, nothing heavy. But as it stands, the personal tax allowance in this country is £12,570. That is to say, the first £12,570 you earn in a year, you don't pay any tax on whatsoever. And that's the same for everybody, more or less. There are some people who get a slightly larger allowance, some people who have slightly lower allowance, some people with no allowance whatsoever. But it's generally the standard is the 12,570, and it isn't rising. It hasn't risen with inflation. It's normally has been for many years index linked, so it always rises every year a little bit. But it hasn't for so long. Back when Rishi was Chancellor, he froze it, and it's frozen ever since. And Reeves has said it's going to continue to freeze until at least 2027, but possibly longer. And it leads to a thing called fiscal drag. And that is more and more people earn more money. And because that initial allowance isn't increased, it means as you earn more money, you're moving up the tax bands within it. Now, you have your next band, your band after that, your band after that, and so forth. But because the bottom band isn't moving, you might get a little bit of a pay rise from your boss. It'll just tick you at the top end of your earnings into, say, 40% band or the 45% band or some such. Fiscal drag. Well, there is one particular form of fiscal drag that is very worrying to a certain group of people. That group are pensioners. And in particular, it's those pensioners whose only income is the state pension. Now, Britain has got an absolutely terrible state pension, but because of the triple lock, it is rising slightly faster than would otherwise rise. The trouble here is we're getting very close to the point where the annual amount of money that the state pension will pay will hit the level of the tax allowance, which means people who are already on one of the world's worst bloody pensions will actually have to start paying tax on it. Have to start paying income tax on your miserly state pension. And that can't be right. And Rachel Reeves has been basically bounced into having to address this. I don't think it's something she's ever thought of because, let's face it, doesn't think of much, does she? Not a lot goes on between those ears, But the calls are she's going to have to push this tax allowance up. Now, there are two ways of doing it, of course. One is just have a rising of the tax allowance in line with inflation, index link the tax allowance, so that it rises every year and is always slightly ahead of the state pension. Or the second way, well, actually, there's a third way, which I've just thought of. Or the other one they're thinking about is giving pensioners an extra £1,000 allowance simply for being a pensioner, and then having that uplift index linked, so that at no point does anyone earning the state pension ever hit their allowance, and therefore the state pension isn't taxed. Of course, I've just thought of another one, which would be the best way of doing it, is make the allowance, once the state pension hits what the allowance is, make the allowance exactly the same as the state pension and tie the allowance to the state pension. And that way, going forward, everybody can benefit, but the pensioners will never have to pay a penny in tax on their state pension. If they have private income, that's fine. They pay the tax on that. I get that. But never pay tax on their state pension. It seems fair. These people are on such a little amount anyway. Why would you tax them? It seems inhuman. It seems unfair. And it seems really unethical. Not that we should be bothered about ethics when it comes to the Labour Party. Rachel Reeves has got no ethics whatsoever. She's bouncing people into debt. She's cutting the £300, winter fuel allowance. She's not paying the waspy women pension that's due. They're going back to court for that. So there is no humanity in this Labour Party. We have to accept that. They absolutely loathe pensioners. So I don't suspect that. I'll say that again. I suspect she won't. I don't suppose she will. It's confusing myself. But I don't suppose she will raise it because she's got no reason to. Because that, it would be aiding pensioners. That's not the Labour way, is it? Let's do them in. Let's get rid of them. That's the Labour way. Pensioners cost. Whoa, if we can knock a few off, all the better, isn't it? And so, the financial statement that's coming up probably end of March, in which, if I will say as well, be prepared, more tax rises, because, tax, she's already blown a fiscal headroom, as she called it. Oh, that will be it. We will not come after any more tax. The moment she said that, you knew they're going to tax again. They keep giving money away. We didn't allow for this mistake. We didn't allow for that mistake. More tax, more tax. And we've already seen now that the tax take is at the peak, and it is actually now starting to come back down again. And of course, come the 6th of April, it's going to crash. Tax take in April. Boom, it's gone. So what can she do? Well, she'll do nothing. She'll basically do nothing. People are complaining. Financial institutions are complaining. Charities are complaining, particularly Help the Aged. They're complaining. Pensioner groups are complaining. Everyone is there. And they're all saying Rachel Reeves has got to address this. But she won't, as we know. Of course, the other thing they've got is that there is a legal obligation with the triple lock. And this is the thing that may cause Rachel Reeves the biggest headache, because this is the one that will end up with her going to court. For, you see, the triple lock is a legal requirement. They cannot just announce things. They have to abide by this, because it is an act of Parliament. It is a law. And the triple lock guarantees a minimum income and minimum rise for pensioners on state pension. And it's actually written in. If you're starting to tax the state pension, it means that what the pensioners get has not gone up by whatever the prescribed amount is in that particular year. And that would be against the law. And that is when the lawsuits come in. And there'll be a whole huge class action against all the pensioners in Britain, against the government. And who's responsible for that? Rachel Reeves herself, personally, as Chancellor. And so the class action would be brought against her. Oh, fun. I would pay lots and lots of money to see that. Now, of course, her officials will know all this. Her officials will be running around, pulling their hair out like blue-ass flies on steroids, because they will not be able to get into her thick head the ramifications of not acting to fix this. But let's face it, she's not going to understand it. She's dumb. God help us all. And all power to the pensioners. Worked hard for that money. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.